It's Monday, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 50 Latino as voted on by the Latino Spirit online magazine, certainly the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, without a doubt, the people's choice and the people's voice, and yes, the most handsome face that runs the place. It is me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday to you all. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us from wherever and however you may be joining us right here on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, in addition to all of our other social media platforms. Folks, hope you had a wonderful weekend. I certainly did. How about them Cowboys? Oh, my goodness. Let me have a little tea here because it's the Dallas Cowboys that run New York back-to-back weeks. Good start to the season. A lot of football to be played, so let's hope they stay healthy. And let's see where 2023 takes us for America's team. And folks, once again, I cannot thank you enough for joining us here tonight on this, the 18th of September, as we keep chugging along here during the fall weather. Folks, I know I appreciate you joining us here on this rainy Monday, whether you're watching us on the drive home, obviously on your handheld device, or maybe you're just at home after finishing dinner. Whatever the case may be, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you tuning in here too. Jersey First TV. Of course, always remember to check out all of our social media. Make sure you like Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on Facebook as well. And also make sure you like Jersey First TV. Don't forget to like, of course, follow Jersey First TV on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to follow yours truly also at the same handle, at the Fernando Zone. And of course, for all you YouTube subscribers, click that subscribe button and you'll be, made aware of all the great programming brought to you by Jersey First TV. And of course, wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Spotify or SoundCloud, download episodes and take them with you anywhere at any time. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot say enough how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Jersey First TV, always advocating and educating the residents here in the state of New Jersey. And folks, new episodes are available online every single week. Every Thursday, you'll see brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative, hosted by the incredible Elizabeth Nader, and of course, brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Brambolo also premiere on Thursdays. And on Mondays, brand new episodes live of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe come to you again live every Monday night via StreamYard, via YouTube, of course, also on Twitter, LinkedIn, and all of the other aforementioned social media platforms. Folks, you want to stick around as I have a lot to say about Tom Moran and Jay Lassiter, and two guys that, listen, it never gets boring going after them for some of the nonsense that they espouse. But this week especially, Tom Moran and Jay Lassiter, folks, get your cooking aprons ready. It's time to cook later on. But first, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? Part of the reason this program continues to do exceptionally well is not just talking about politics. Yeah, everyone loves politics to some extent. But also it's about talking about issues that matter most to the community. And as a guy who grew up in Hudson County, hey, listen, I love going to parks during the summer months, picnics, festivals, food festivals, whatever the case may be. Hey, we can see them maybe whether it's down, Lincoln Park in Jersey City, up in North Hudson at James J. Braddock Park. But one park that always seems to be under constant debate is Liberty State Park. And folks, there's really no shortage of opinions about what's going on at Liberty State Park. And joining me live tonight, and it's a privilege to talk to him because I had the honor of working with him many years ago when your favorite journalist and academic was a probation officer at the Hudson County Courthouse at 595 Newark Avenue. He was a guy that everyone looked up to, and rightfully so. He's Hall of Famer. Obviously, we all remember him during his days at St. Anthony's. Obviously, an amazing basketball coach, but now an advocate for Liberty State Park. Folks, he is the president and CEO of the People's Park Foundation. My good friend and yours, Mr. Bob Hurley. Mr. Hurley, how are you? Real Talk. It's good to have you on, Mr. Hurley. And Mr. Hurley, I just got to say to you, it's been some years, right? Obviously working together at 595 Newark Avenue, and look where we are now.
Yeah, but when you think about, we're talking about a couple of decades. Boy, time goes by when you're having fun, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, folks, if you just joined us now, Karen, click that share button. Mr. Bob Hurley, Basketball Hall of Famer and the president and CEO of the People's Park Foundation, joins us here tonight. Folks, and again, check out more information by going to www.peoplesparkfoundation.com. Certainly, creating a modern 21st century Liberty State Park is the goal for today and tomorrow And certainly we'll have a lot to talk about with that. Mr. Hurley, obviously you have lived an amazing life, almost like a life for like 5 people. Basketball Hall of Famer, public servant, certainly someone who is now more than ever invested in the future of Liberty State Park. Why is this cause so important to you?
Well, you know what happened? When we worked together in probation, Glenn Cunningham asked me to leave probation to become the director of recreation back in July of 2001. And I did it because, when you work there, I was doing adult supervision.
Yeah.
I was reaching people very late in life. They had bad decisions that started, much earlier. And then when I became director of recreation and became aware of, the surrounding area here, the facilities that we needed to improve upon so that young people and families would have activities to get involved in. And, Liberty State Park was one of those. The legendary Jersey City guy, the FA, Ed Ford, and Joe Mackey, who was one of the assistants with me in recreation. We were trying to expand local facilities. We were able to get a running track in the Jersey City Armory so our local track teams could practice, because these teams were traveling all over North Jersey just to have practice when the weather was cold. And then we were looking for practice fields for young kids, specifically for soccer, because there was soccer had exploded in Jersey City, and we were never able to get permits even for small areas there, which was bothersome. So I did that until I retired around 2010, and I've just remained involved in activities. Stayed at St. Anthony's till 2017, and school closed, and then started a foundation in Jersey City. People's Park I'm involved in now, but we started the Hurley Family Foundation when we just opened up a gymnasium and brought in friends and volunteers and just taught young kids locally how to play basketball at no charge. And because of that, people would ask about all other sports, and I could never really steer anybody in the directions that I wanted. And in the end of this long answer is that I also ride the bike in the park every day. I'm a cyclist, so I go in every day when the weather's nice. I ride in the park, and I just look around, and I love it there, but I just think it can be a lot more than it is. It could offer a lot more things for a lot more people than it does right now.
Well said, Mr. Hurley. And folks, again, if you just joined us right now, it's 7:09 here on the East Coast. My guest this evening is the president and CEO of the People's Park Foundation, Basketball Hall of Famer, Mr. Bob Hurley, join us here on Real Talk. Mr. Hurley, real quick here, and for our audience at home, again, folks, if you just check out the website, really, and just to sort of piggyback on what you just said, the People's Park Foundation was formed to elevate the voices of the community who have been demanding, the cleanup of toxic chromium contamination in Liberty State Park, along with a better balance of uses of the park's 1,200 acres, which is amazing when you think of that number. We've listened to the needs of coaches, community leaders, and others who believe Liberty State Park can have recreation, arts, and culture along with passive recreation. It seems, though, Mr. Hurley, that the Department of Environmental Protection has a lot to say, or maybe hasn't had a lot to say in this entire process, where everyone seems to have an opinion. What can you tell us right now about conversations you've had with the Department of Environmental Protection out of Trenton?
Well, I'm one of the task force members. So I'm part of a group of, say, 12 to 15 people that meet regularly to talk about things that, we're trying to get together on things that need to be done. But, I can't imagine that anyone doesn't believe that we need to clean up this entire contaminated area. And it should have been done 30 or 40 years ago. And we're trying, one of the biggest things we can do is stay on the DEP to get this process started. So those of us who do use the park, we're clearing out this large area, dead center in the park, that is just a contaminated area, clean it up. And then there's a battle as to what things are going to be done in the park. But I don't think anybody would dispute we need to get the contamination out as we continue to discuss, and there is a DEP plan that they've unveiled. They did it last June about this, passive and active recreation, what things are going to go in the park. And we're very excited with what we see but we know that as we still speak, the cleanup has not begun. It needs to get, it needs to get started. And then when that's been done, we can make all the progress and the tug of war that exists between groups that represent whatever they represent. We do what we need to do in this world right now. We need to get to the middle of this world and try to, you give up something to get something. And when you're talking about a park, Fernando, you're talking about having some things that young people would want to do. A family on a weekend can come to the park and have more. An example, just a simple example, is if you get off the light rail in Jersey City, down right on Johnson Avenue, and if a family would get off the light rail there to walk to the first playground, which has a small barbecue area, it's 1.4 miles. So when you think about a family traveling to the park, bringing stuff maybe for lunch, some things for the kids to play with, what a commitment it is just to get into the park. And, not enough parking. And then when you get there, maybe not enough activities that if you have older kids, playgrounds are great for kids 10 and younger. When you're looking to, keep your local teenagers busy, you need more than to walk along the water to keep a teenager interested. And, that's one of the many things, like food trucks and bathrooms are more accessible, bikes that you could rent, accessibility from a couple of different directions to get into the park. So eventually when they change it, people can get into the park.
Well said, though. And just to sort of piggyback on what you just mentioned, every year in October during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I always do the breast cancer walk for the American Cancer Society. It's always in Liberty State Park. And I always drive there, but my route's always the same. I drive all the way down Kennedy, go down, make a left on Community Park, take Community all the way into the park. And I do see the light rail station that you're referencing. But having said that, it's like if I wanted to take the light rail there, it's still a walk to everything. And to your point about whether it's barbecuing, like a family of four, trekking along a mile. Listen, a mile's not easy these days, okay?
And if you look, Fernando, if you look at the southern part of the park, to enter the park from Jersey City, you come in versus on Bayview Avenue, Bayview and Garfield. You have to go over a bridge, and there is a pathway, a walkway is only about 3 feet wide. Yeah. You cannot ride a bike into the park from that side of the park because everybody is zipping back and forth to get on the turnpike and to get on that back road, which is parallel to the turnpike. Yeah. And it's a big industrial area on that side of the park. So you've got factories and trucks. So again, you can't walk over the bridge. You certainly can't ride a bike over. I tried it one time and I just found myself, it was just crazy dangerous. And, I'm not in extreme sports. I just want to get out, get on the bike. Weather's nice, get a little exercise. And the park is a great place to ride. But again, it can be so much more than it is.
Absolutely. Folks, if you just joined us right now, it's 7:14 here on the East Coast. My guest this evening is Basketball Hall of Famer and the president and CEO of the People's Park Foundation, Mr. Bob Hurley, join us here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Mr. Let me sort of add this. I've interviewed some people on this show and my other podcast locally that have had very different opinions about what the park should be, whether it be editors of local news sites, activists, and everything else. And I had to be corrected a couple of times because, when I think about parks, I think about, hey, Lincoln Park in Jersey City. I think about, Braddock Park by me up in North Hudson. And I just think, they're county parks, but Liberty State Park is a state park. Obviously, it's embedded in the name. Having said that, to your point about having amenities, having things that can really benefit the community being there. Case in point, I love going to concerts down by the PNC Bank Arts Center, but let's be honest, folks. And again, I'm trying to keep this show. I do
also.
And I'm trying to keep the show PG here. It's a pain in the ass to drive down to the PNC Bank Arts Center. Yep. If no one's saying we need an arena the size of Prudential Center. No one's saying that. But a small amphitheater that could be used for concerts, for events, for conferences, for whatever the case may be. I mean, again,
graduations, local graduations.
That would not be the worst thing, but I get met with so much brushback from people. Oh, well, Fernando, we don't want this to become the Meadowlands with a mall and a stadium and all. No one's saying that, Mr. Hurley, but it seems like as soon as you start going down that rabbit hole, people just really start taking sides.
You're absolutely right. The argument takes you away from what the original intent was, is to have some multi-purpose fields where local kids can participate in sports. And because you don't want it to be all about sports, we'd love to put together in this large area a community garden. We have Rutgers University ready to come in and help to set up this community garden and teach people to become master gardeners, involve our Jersey City school children. We have almost 30,000 grammar school kids in our public schools in Jersey City. But what's lost all the time is that this is the only state park for Hudson, Essex, and Union County. We're talking about over 2 million people. Yeah. And when they talk about 4 million people visit the park each year, that's true. But I can tell you that it has to be 90% of the people that come to visit the park go to see the Statue of Liberty, come back, get in their car, and leave the area. Now, for local, to develop help the economy, to have some tourism where somebody can come on a Saturday and go to Liberty Science Center and then maybe go over in this food trucks and maybe, walk around the park or go to the Statue of Liberty and then come back to the park. And maybe the kids are playing pickleball or you're doing any one of a bunch of things you can put in the park, and you're doing that while the weather's nice. And with the weather's nice, I was there today, and in the park today it was raining. So there's no one in the park. The day before, probably 100 or 200 people at the park. And, kids in school, but when the kids aren't in school, you should see the place. It should be vibrant. People said, I'd love this to be like Central Park. I would say to them, I would love this to be like Bayonne Park, where I grew up, I raised my family in Greenville. So we're very close to Bayonne Park. And Bayonne Park, as Lincoln Park and Braddock, terrific facilities. Bayonne, the Liberty Center is so much bigger. We only talk about taking a portion of the park and putting some of the things in that exists in those other parks.
Now, Mr. Hurley, let me ask you this, because I would argue that this goes beyond politics. It's not about Republicans and Democrats, red or blue, left, right, Democrat, progressive, conservative. I just think that also there's the politics about maybe to some extent climate and climate science about, hey, we need more green spaces. It seems like every election season in Jersey City, you always start hearing about, well, we need more green space in Jersey City. And we hear candidates come out of the woodworks with that sort of trigger word. And I get all that. But to your point about a small portion of the park itself, because case in point, unless I'm mistaken, Mr. Hurley, I believe, Newport Mall is going to be dissolved within a certain amount of years.
Yes.
I think that that's the case. Now, again, I'm not saying that we should build a mall by Liberty Science Center, but if we have a small area for shopping, restaurants, food trucks, to your point, that would not be the worst thing. It would help the local economy. It would help, obviously, residents and, young people, the elderly, seniors that want to be able to do things at the park. Listen, going to Liberty Science Center is not for everybody. I'm a nerd. I love that stuff, but it's not for everybody.
And it's expensive. It's not something you're going to bring a family to on a regular basis, but you certainly can do other things and then picnic in the park and, go over and watch kids play soccer or this sport now that we've got to, continue to work to develop is pickleball. Yeah. Pickleball has become the sport for 50 and older where people all over the place are playing. We in Jersey City, we have a changing population. We're the most diverse city in the country right now. Yeah. We need areas for cricket. We need areas for lacrosse. There's a big interest in rugby, and you can't do any of those if you don't level some areas that kids can and people can play on, because the injury factor when things are not leveled, trees in the area, it's you can only do things that are barely an active recreation.
Absolutely. And Mr. Hurley, to your point, I've had guests on local high school coaches from Ferris High School. Baseball.
Josh, very good friend. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah. And when I interviewed Josh, he was telling me the same thing. He's like, Fernando, the idea that our baseball teams on our high schools don't have adequate fields to go play on. When out of town high schools come to Jersey City and they play on these fields, Mr. Hurley, it's embarrassing. And it's also unsafe to our kids that potentially a lot of these kids could go on to have great collegiate careers, maybe even MLB careers, but that could really get cut short quick by an injury as innocuous as, I hate to say it because it's been in the news cycle, an Achilles tendon. sakes.
Fernando, they deserve better. I've been with the Ferris kids numerous days this past spring during their baseball season.
Yeah.
I went to watch them play the #1 team in the state, Cranford High School at Cranford. And for the kids from Ferris going to Cranford to play #1 team in the state, it wasn't about the talent difference. They were so overwhelmed by the atmosphere that they were playing. It was like a mini professional baseball area. The kids were in awe, and they didn't need to be in awe because they're good enough to go out and compete. But they played very well that day. They really represented the city very well. But then the flip side is Cranford won't come to play Ferris High School in Jersey City. We do not have a field that's sufficient for a good high school level field. Our track and field is the same way. Kids from all of our schools are going on to compete at the college level. They're running sprints in the hallways in the schools. They're running on the street in front of the schools. When football season rolls around, there's countless teams that are waiting to play. I'll give you a good example. Last week, I went to watch my grandson. He's a freshman at St. Peter's Prep, and his freshman team was playing Ferris. So the freshman game between Ferris and St. Peter's Prep in soccer there's two schools are about 15 blocks apart. The game was played at Bayonne Park, and at the same time, there were 3 other soccer games being played on this one multi-purpose field. And of the 8 teams that were playing, Bayonne's girls team was the only team from Bayonne that was in Bayonne playing these 4 varsity soccer games, varsity level soccer games at that time. That shouldn't be. People shouldn't have to travel to town, to Bayonne to use facilities that we certainly could find a way to use in Liberty State Park, in addition to what we get in Lincoln Park, because the county has done a very good job of making that available, but not for all the schools that we have in the city. There's just not enough.
Absolutely. Folks, again, 7:23 here on the East Coast. If you're just joining us live right now on Jersey First TV, click that share button, folks. It's 2 seconds. Sharing is caring. As our guest tonight is Mr. Bob Hurley, National Basketball Hall of Famer and the president and CEO of the People's Park Foundation. Mr. Hurley, it's interesting when you mentioned that. And again, I don't want to get overly political, even though it's a political show. It's funny what they find money for in Jersey City sometimes, but to sort of make these fields better for our kids with so many talented athletes we have in all of the entire Jersey City school district, it really is embarrassing. And it really only gets addressed during election season. And that's one of the tragic things. Not just, listen, Jersey City's not guilty of that only.
Fernando, you and I know, after working in probation, an ounce of, what's the expression? An ounce of is worth a pound of cure. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If young kids have activities that they get involved in, and it becomes something that makes them attend school more focused, all of a sudden the dropout rate in schools drops. All the men on probation that I had for the 30 years I worked as a probation officer, they all said to me to a 1, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, loss of interest in school. They weren't involved in things. The biggest regret in their lives was that they didn't stay in school. Well, when you have things to kids' interest, then all of a sudden kid does better in school when he's involved in an activity. And it doesn't have to be sports. It can be, we do so many different things. It could be employment for kids during the summer. It could be so many things that they can benefit from. And just the fact, if your friends go to the park and they're playing in a game, they're your friends. You go and you watch. The amount of spectators that would be on the hills in the park, watching softball games, and watching like everybody play a track and field meet, the Jersey City Track and Field Championship, or the Hudson County Championship on a Saturday. The weather's nice. There'd be 1,000 people sitting on the hills watching these kids participate, making that a special thing. And that would be going on anytime the weather was nice. There'd be something there that would be the seasonal activities.
Absolutely. Michelle, let me ask you this, because again, not to get overly political, but what's been the dialogue, if any, with recent governors? Obviously, Phil Murphy's a guy that's all about, being green and green space and this and that. And his predecessor, Chris Christie, probably wasn't the same. His predecessor, John Corzine, probably wasn't the same either. What's been the level of dialogue between the People's Park Foundation and the leadership in Trenton?
Well, it's been very good, but I think what happens when when there's discussions with your governor and senators and congressmen and assemblymen, everybody believes that a portion of this park should go in this direction. The problem is, as it gets down to the level where you're doing your grunt work and getting things done, there's been too many stalls. Things have been, it hasn't moved as quickly. The biggest thing the People's Park can do is be an advocate right now for all of the things that we've been told are going to be put in the park, and we stay on the DEP to do things in a timely fashion, constantly being aware that, the Department of Environmental Protection is not in the business of putting ball fields in parks. That's not what they do.
Yeah.
This is, it's a foreign situation for them. But we have from our end here, if you started with Bruce Alston and Jerry Walker and Jerry McCann and Elnada Webster and Josh and all our local coaches and athletic directors, the last two superintendents of schools here, Franklin Walker's retired now, and Norma Fernandez, who's now the superintendent of schools. Everybody's on board with this. So when we do have discussions about who's not on board, I think it's more a matter of it's a dramatic thing from the do to take a park that basically has just been a natural preserve on the edge of an urban area. And as you said, 1,200 acres. We're only asking for about 100 acres of recreation facilities done here while we clean this park up so it's a better park for everybody.
Mr. Hurley, now that you mentioned obviously the dialogue you've had with governors, certainly U.S. senators, members of the House of Representatives, legislators at the state level, at the end of the day, I mean, again, just to educate our audience, because maybe they're not familiar with the process, and you talk about the stalling and some obstacles that you have faced and so has the foundation, is it really more about just getting on Trenton and the legislature to pass a bill to get this sort of fast track?
Well, no, Fernando, you know the difference between government and business.
Sure.
If this had been a business situation, last June, not this past June, the Senate gave the DEP $50,000 to begin the work in the park, specifically to move towards getting recreation in. To this day, they're going to break ground sometime in the next month.
Wow.
But as I said to you, I'm in the park every day. They have only repaired benches and they fixed lights. They haven't started to level any ball fields. Fences aren't down yet for the cleaning of the park. So, this is 15 months have gone by. We've already had that second time where we should have been back to see the Senate to ask for more money. But you can't ask for more money when you haven't done anything with the first bit of money. So this is what I say about the DEP. They're in an area they're not familiar. I don't think they're stalling. I just think that this could have been put in a different department and state, like the area responsible for building the stadiums,
Sure.
Sports and Exposition Authority would have been far better served being here, because they could have moved this. I mean, you build MetLife Stadium, you can come in and start putting some ball fields in. And I know the governor wants stuff to be done, because with the World Cup coming, they would like to have some natural field practice areas that some of the teams could practice in Liberty State Park. So, it's just, it's bothersome that we have so many people. Senator Stack is one of our biggest proponents for this, because all of his coaches in Union City, Wilbur and Coach Morano and Carlos Cueto and everybody who's up there right now have all told him, we have the best facilities right now in the county, and we need better facilities, because we have to travel to Jersey City to play all the schools. And all of a sudden we're on fields that are just not varsity level fields. And if our younger teams are practicing, they're barely even, ball fields for teams to play on.
Absolutely, Mr. And listen, State Senator Stack is obviously one of the more vocal and influential legislators, to say the least, obviously. Now, while the People's Park Foundation is a nonprofit, and it's not political in nature per se, but does the foundation at any point in time maybe feel the need to put a little pressure on the legislature or maybe the governor?
Yeah,
Because again,
we're constantly,
right around the corner.
constantly nudging. But again, we had so much support that we're kind of nudging people just to see if we get this process started. Again, within 30 days, we're going to break ground. But all of us are wondering, at this point, one of the things we really want to have done, and you've been there, so you understand this, that railroad terminal, okay, needs to be cleaned up. It's filled with asbestos.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very expensive thing to be done, but we have to get that cleaned up. If you want to make this a place that people want to visit, you can't go up to where the 9/11 memorial is and look to your right and see this huge abandoned area filled with asbestos. It's got to be cleaned. It's got to be done. We're just waiting too long to get these things started. Process, phase 1, phase 1A, phase 2. We got to get things going.
Mr. Hurley, as two guys that worked at 595 Newark Avenue, I think we know about decrepit buildings and breathing that stuff in. Yes. The sooner the better. Yes. That stuff is disposed of. Absolutely. Let me ask you this, because, as we get into 2025, obviously the mayor of Jersey City is the first declared candidate for governor. Has there been any conversations with Mayor Fulop about this maybe being a part of his campaign? Or
he's on board, and I am sure that when he wants to, as he's moving aspirations from running Jersey City to running the state of New Jersey, now people are more interested than our 300,000 residents of Jersey City about things he's involved in, and he's supportive of getting this stuff done in the park. But at the same time, people all over the state would like to visit Liberty State Park. They go to the Statue of Liberty. They would love to go see a state track meet there and watch their child, compete in a track and field facility and sit on a hill looking at the skyline, looking one direction.
And Mr. Hurley, also too, I mean, just think of graduations. Why should the local colleges have to sublet and pay money to the Prudential Center or to MetLife Stadium when they can have a facility right in Liberty State Park that they can use, whether it be high school graduations, whether it be NJCU, St. Peter's University, wherever? I mean, again, these are ideas that are not unheard of. So let me ask you this, because I know there's been some pushback by some critics of you and the foundation that, if we start adding amenities, we're just going to be bringing more people in, more traffic, which means more fumes. It's toxic to the environment. A lot of the people that, talk about climate change and talk about, all this clutter. How do you respond to people that are concerned about, hey, the more people that are coming in, the more cars, the more fumes, it's toxic. It's not good for our kids. What do you say to them?
And it's a valid point, but right now it's only crowded in a lot of cases because there's such poor access to parking around the park.
Yeah.
And we don't have any of the possibilities like having shuttles that can take people through the park, electric operated mini buses, and having golf carts and having bikes available. Every time I'm in a park, I get stopped probably every 2 weeks by somebody, and they see me riding, and I'm riding slow enough that they can stop me, and I'm not I can stop and engage in conversation. Somebody's always asking, where can they rent bikes while they're in the park? Now, you would think that a place as big as this would have 2 different areas where you could pick up bikes, ride around, and bring them back, that you would have a lot more things. But they need to have someone that's going to be able to manage all of these things. The Department of Transportation is prepared. We've talked to them about having buses from different places in the city that families could get on buses, particularly on weekends, that would run maybe on the hour, and people would be dropped off at central locations. There'd be parking areas where you'd have shuttles from the parking areas, certainly from the light rail parking lot. As big as that light rail parking lot is, that's certainly an opportunity. And the area underneath the turnpike is ripe for parking. That entire area, from Johnston heading over towards Bayview Avenue. But the bigger issue is it has to be addressed. how we can make the park more accessible, not just to people getting off the turnpike at 14B and coming into the park, but figuring out a way of getting paths, bike paths. You know, Jersey City, as is Union City, we have an awful lot of bike paths now.
Yeah.
That's terrific. But if you want to try to get kids to go into a park, a kid wants to have his basketball or ride his bike in the park. You can't do it from the southern part of the city. So they have to come up with a plan that's going to access some paths, and not that complicated to do, because I know we've given up in Jersey City. Montgomery Street is one lane now. Grand Street is one lane. Bergen Avenue, which is crosses the town, one lane. We're doing it all over. So if we can do that all over our city, we can certainly do it with a couple of access points to the park, and that would eliminate a lot of the traveling. You know, my wife and I will stay away from the park 4th of July and other dates because it's so crowded. But we could also ride our bikes in during the day and ride back out again, and people can walk in. But parking areas would certainly, would really help to change those things.
Absolutely. And shout out to Mrs. Hurley there, obviously helping to make today's interview possible. So shout out to
Yeah,
you.
she said without Mrs. Hurley, my level of technology, we'd be on the phone right now, Fernando.
Well, Mr. Hurley, shout out to your lovely wife for sure. Mr. Hurley, before I let you go, I just want to pick your brain real quick. I'm a big basketball fan. Obviously, you are a basketball Hall of Famer. I get into these debates with all my buddies all the time about, players and eras. And it's interesting because, you're a coach, you've been teaching fundamentals to kids for as long as I can remember. And obviously, you've always stressed the importance of that. But let me pick your brain as a Hall of Famer, because I'm always someone that gets a lot of heat for being such a LeBron James defender. And I love Michael Jordan, got raised on Michael Jordan. But do you think sometimes there's just unfair comparisons because it's different eras? Like, case in point, I mean, the logo is Jerry West. Jerry West is 1-8 in the finals. I don't think anybody in their right mind would ever call Jerry West a failure. I don't think anyone will ever call Jerry West a bad player. But sometimes do legacies and eras maybe not get taken into consideration? Kareem was great for his era. Bill Russell, Jordan, Magic. I mean, Magic is 5-3 in the finals. We talk about Jordan being 6-0 in the finals. We talk about LeBron being 4-6 in the finals. It's a team game. So the idea that sometimes these records or, hey, again, going back to Jerry West, he's the logo. He's 1-8 in the finals. Does anyone ever say, oh, Jerry West, he's a bum? Of course not. So as a coach, again, as a Hall of Famer, when you hear these conversations in a barbershop, at a barbecue, what do you insert into the conversation when you hear these talking points, Mr. Hurley?
Well, first of all, your records for everybody, you have your talking points in place. Very good for having all of those.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley. Thank you.
Yeah, I get into like the new JJ Redick. You've seen some of his comparisons between the modern player and the players over the years. I think the all-time players, whether it's LeBron and Michael Jordan 1 and 1A with Kobe and other people, the Wilt Chamberlains and the Oscar Robertsons and the Bill Russells and, the Larry Birds, they were products of a much more unsophisticated world that they grew up playing. The amount of things now that players are able to get, strength training, diet, the coaching is so much better. Many of those players would be great in any era. And all these conversations are great because they stimulate what a great sport it is. Yeah. And it's a sport where guys they've always imitated others. So one of the great compliments is that LeBron was watching Kobe, who was watching Michael Jordan, who was watching Connie Hawkins and Dr. J, who were watching Elgin Baylor, and all of these. It's a compliment to each sport, like baseball. I'm a big baseball fan. To see the guys coming out of the bullpen now, guys come out of the bullpen, they're throwing 100 miles an hour. When they talk about batting averages, well, great baseball players saw pitchers for an entire games. Guys used to throw 150 pitches. Now a guy will throw, he'll throw 80, 85 pitches, and in comes the setup guy, and then in comes the guy might be the closer or maybe one more guy.
The long reliever or the
special. They're phenomenal, and they're training all the time. So all of it. It's why sports is so good, because now we got the 1-1 Giants, we got the 1-1 Jets. I'm a Cowboy fan like you, so
Yes,
I'm
yes,
2-0.
Mr. Hurley. All right, good stuff.
I think this defense right now is tremendous. If Zach doesn't throw picks, I think we win a lot of games this year. And then the playoffs start, and then you roll them out and you see what can happen.
Mr. Hurley, it's been way too long, and it's just unfortunate. The Cowboys tease us. They have a lot of good teams over the years. They tease us in January. God willing, I hope this is the year. It's been 28 years. I'm tired of I'm tired of the Stephen A. Smiths and the Shannon Sharps and these clowns. Mr. Hurley, how great would it be to wake up Monday morning after the Super Bowl to watch First Take or these shows and just watch Stephen A. squirm that the Cowboys, he's lost material now. Now he has to come up with new material because
wouldn't he actually have to give them credit?
You know what? Hell might freeze over. Hell might freeze over, Mr. Hurley. But before I let you go, Mr. Hurley, again, it's been such a great conversation with you. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the program here.
Yeah, and I hope, Fernando, it helped people to just realize that, like, it could be so much more. And this is what we want. We don't want 75,000 seat stadiums, but we think our local kids deserve better. People want to go there on the weekend. They deserve better. And while we can, this is our opportunity. We need to do it.
Yeah, and again, before I let you go, folks, check out peoplesparkfoundation.com for more information if you're looking to get involved and be an advocate along with Mr. Hurley. Again, other great activists that are involved. Bruce Alston, by the way, another member of Cowboys Nation, too.
Yes.
As well.
Oh, yeah.
I know Commissioner Jerry Walker, other great people involved with the foundation.
Yes.
Again, folks, check it out. Follow them on Twitter and Instagram, also on Facebook. Like them. Get involved with them. Again, reach out to your neighbors. Reach out to friends. Explain to them the importance of what the great work that the People's Park Foundation does each and every day. Mr. Hurley, you've been great. I know you've had a long day. I'll give you the last word here.
Thank you so much for giving me a chance just to tell, and you said about the media. The media has portrayed this whole thing to be about a billionaire wanting to put 3 holes in a golf course. And all of us in Jersey City who never have golf clubs in our hands just know that this is going to be something that it'll be life-changing for many people. And I thank you so much for just having me on today.
Mr. Hurley, I appreciate your faith in Jersey First TV and Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Again, I'm really the only media talking about this while people are,
absolutely,
time with other nonsense. Not here on Jersey First TV. We're talking about the issues that matter the most to the community out there. So, Mr. Hurley, once again, thank you, folks. He is Bob Hurley, Basketball Hall of Famer and the President and CEO of the People's Park Foundation. Mr. Hurley, thank you so much for joining us here on Jersey First and Real Talk with Fernando Uribe.
Thanks for that.
Have a good night. Take care.
Thank you.
Folks, great episode there with Bob Hurley, Basketball Hall of Famer, once again, and the President and CEO of the People's Park Foundation. And listen, a member of Cowboys Nation. I'm excited always to talk to a fellow member of Cowboy Nation there. And obviously a lot to discuss, folks, about Liberty State Park, something that, quite frankly, it seems like everyone has an opinion. And eventually, as we get into the legislative races later this fall and certainly into the gubernatorial race and council races in Jersey City in the fall of 2025, I'm sure there'll be no shortage of chatter when it comes to really what side of the fence you're on when it comes to Liberty State Park and what's the best direction for the park moving forward. Again, folks, once again, a privilege to talk to Bob Hurley, Basketball Hall of Famer, here on the show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, before I let you go, you know what time it is. It's time for final thoughts. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to say to you, looking at my news feed and looking at Twitter, it never ceases to amaze me the level of insanity and outright stupidity that is demonstrated by the Star-Ledger and the editor-in-chief of its editorial board. Well, more, I call it the propaganda board because there's nothing to editorialize there. It's just propaganda. But leave it up to Tommy boy, Tom Moran, right? And I get it. Tom, in your old age, you're not really as sharp, right, as you used to be. But it's interesting about what you're going to push as a narrative. Okay. And I was looking at this over the weekend, and me in my infinite wisdom was looking at a editorial that you retweeted on Twitter, or X, I'm sorry. And I just found the level of selective moral outrage by Tom Moran to be gold, right? So the editorial starts by saying that there can be no more deplorable failure of government than allowing its most vulnerable to die, particularly when the victims live under the care of government itself. So there is no debate that the 200 plus COVID fatalities at state-operated veterans' homes in Paramus and Menlo Park Mall epitomized Trenton's dysfunction, as outlined with agonizing clarity by the Department of Justice report released last week. And the loss of these heroes demands federal intervention, legislative action, and a granular examination of how this came to be the most appalling failure of the Murphy administration. Now, the Department of Justice found that this custodial relationship, one that requires compassion, dedication, and resources from our state government, was instead shattered by rampant indifference and incompetence with, quote, a degree of culpability that shocks the conscience. Governor Murphy has to answer to that, and while he concedes that, quote, unequivocally, the book stops with me, the state has endured 3.5 years of political palaver without action. Our Democratic lawmakers must reject their instincts for damage control and explore how he butchered his obligations so profoundly, propose structural changes at the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, and demand that a federal monitor be summoned to oversee veterans' home network, and that the governor and that the DMAVA patronage plant are blatantly ill-equipped to handle. Now, the federal government has given the Paramus and Menlo Park facilities 6 more weeks to show specific improvements in 4 areas of remedial mediation, including the, quote, inadequate infection control and, quote, dysfunctional management practices, or it will sue the state for violating the civil rights of these residents. You know, I have to tell you, folks, when I look at this selective outrage by this clown, because that's what Tom Moran is, he's a clown, okay? I'm not going to be nice about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it or anything. Tom Moran's a clown. Very simple, okay? You might as well just put on the makeup, Tom, because you're not fooling anybody. The nerve you have, I mean, you have a lot of nerve because you like to be, you know, your selective moral outrage is really funny, okay? When you could have taken the Murphy administration to task on awful COVID practices, going back to March of 2020 and throughout the rest of that summer, you stayed quiet. You, along with the rest of the clowns in the liberal media establishment in New Jersey, I'm going to name them all because you're all complicit in this too. David Cruz, Terrence McDonald, Max Pizarro, Jay Lassiter, Bob Hennelly, Alan Steinberg, Charles Stile, okay? All these clowns and many others, right, that do columns for the liberal media establishment, you stayed quiet. This was you during the spring of 2020 and the summer of 2020. This is to best describe how all of you reacted when the governor was enacting bad COVID policies. Policies that now the Justice Department clearly are outlining that killed people. But you were all concerned about the science and about vaccines. And a lot of you were busier vax shaming people like me, right? And others who didn't believe in what these vaccines were supposedly pushing, and about boosters, and about the fact that if you don't cooperate and if you don't get vaccinated, then you're part of the problem. Folks, Tom Moran is symptomatic of other journalists that would shame you, that would lecture you when they don't know the first thing about science. Isn't it funny about Tom Moran and how conveniently he knows about science, right? The guy, listen, I think he's like late 70s. Maybe he just cracked 80, like Alan Steinberg, right? Or maybe a little bit older. Who knows? But 70 years ago, when you went to high school, Tom, maybe you didn't pass high school biology. And clearly you don't, because you espouse a lot of the left-wing nonsense when it comes to science, right? And you're the same guy that will push about science and about climate, right? When we know and we've learned that many of you, including you, Tom, got the science wrong when it came to COVID. And that starts with Governor Murphy, the emperor, certainly and by the way, let me just sort of go with another clown, Judith Perskilly, the commissioner of the Department of Health, By the way, folks, I wouldn't trust this woman to give me a Tylenol, okay, or a Theraflu if I developed, I don't know, a flu or a runny nose. But somehow Judith Briskilly, right, the outgoing commissioner, thank the Lord, I think she's going to be gone. Thank the Lord. Get rid of this woman, okay? Send her to, like, I don't know, the Sudan somewhere and let her rot there for all I care, okay? But you can see there, obviously, on March the 9th, 2020, right? This is, okay, folks, this executive orders here from the emperor and how bad these COVID policies were, okay? And you can see there that, yeah, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but it's these policies that got people killed, okay? And the Justice Department now has outlined it, okay? And that's what really bothers me here is the audacity of Tom Moran to now be sanctimonious and say, well, Governor Murphy should have known better. No, Tom, you should have known better because you should have called out the governor on this stupidity years ago. Just like you, just like David Cruz, just like Max Brazzaro, Terrence McDonald, Charles Stile, Matt Freeman, all you other leftists that somehow know about science, right, mysteriously and conveniently, you should have gone after Governor Murphy because it's policies that got people killed, especially veterans. Men and women who serve this country with duty, with honor and prestige. And how do we repay them? We leave them to die in nursing homes with COVID, knowing full well that we should not have put people with COVID back into nursing homes. Why didn't you write about that? Since you like to, type away in your little columns about outrage, right? You seem to have this perpetual erection about the 45th president and going after leftists, right? And conservatives. Why didn't you go after Governor Murphy? Yeah, a day late and $1 short, but that's Tom Moran. Okay? No one's buying this, folks. Nobody is buying this garbage. Okay? The typical garbage columns that come from Tom Moran and the Star Ledger. Isn't it funny? And I had to laugh that now on Saturdays, the Star Ledger is discontinuing its print edition, right? Like, folks, the Star Ledger, all it was ever good for is if you were moving and you wanted to pack away an expensive vase or a china set or maybe a statue or a collectible that your grandma gave you. Yeah, you go to the you go to the newsstand and pick up the Star Ledger, right? And you like roll it up and, you would be like, using the Star Ledger to wrap up expensive things because that's all it's good for. To hear now that the Star Ledger is no longer available on Saturdays and that they discontinued it in a print version. Well, aside from the fact that it's garbage anyway, people have learned that it's a scam, okay? That it's not good journalism, that it's not good reporting, and it's certainly not good editorializing. And it starts with this clown, Tom Moran, who, again, folks, had every opportunity to call out the governor, to call out the state Senate president at the time, Steve Sweeney, and Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin about acquiescing to the governor with bad COVID policies. We know who got them right. Ron DeSantis in Florida, Greg Abbott. Isn't it funny that governors with states as red as my jacket are the ones that got COVID right? Meanwhile, governors in blue states like Andrew Cuomo, when he was too busy fondling women, or Phil Murphy hiring despicable men in his cabinet, right? Or, Ned Lavant out there in Connecticut. Isn't it funny? Or Gavin Newsom. Isn't it funny how blue governors got COVID wrong? But Tom Moran would never tell you that. Because, again, that would require Tom Moran. Wait for it. Wait for it. It's that 4-syllable word. Wait. Integrity. It would require Tom Moran to have integrity. We all know he doesn't have one. But, again, he will, continue on with his usual ramblings and be sanctimonious and be bitching and moaning. It seems like Tom Moran, like many other liberal journalists in New Jersey, only serve one purpose. Well, two purposes, really, right? They bitch to live and they live to bitch. That's all they're good for. So when I see these columns in the Star Ledger, right, and I hear Tom Moran tweeting them out saying, oh, well, there used to be accountability. Tom, you had a chance a long time ago to call out the governor, the attorney general, and this clown of a health commissioner when we all know that the COVID policies were wrong for the state. They killed small businesses and consequently and clearly, they killed people too. I can't take Tom Moran seriously, folks. I never did to begin with. But now more than ever, seeing this nonsense from Tom Moran, I can't take him seriously. It's, folks, every time you read his columns, he sounds like a whiny little girl. And quite frankly, don't we have to deal with enough whiny little girls around us? Makes you wonder. Speaking of whiny little girls, okay, let me talk about Jay Lassiter. Okay, sort of a good segue there from one whiny little girl to another, right? And it's funny about Jay Lassiter because Jay, I'm going to take you to task on something. And it's funny about trying to call me out on Twitter or whatever little antics you want to engage in. Let me say this, and I'll just sort of nip this in the bud and not speak of it again because it's not worth addressing. Okay, I know what my transcripts say. I know what hangs in my house, which, by the way, are more degrees than you'll ever see in your life, or what's left of it, really, since it's sort of taken away. Okay? I know what my transcripts say. My employers know what my transcripts say. And I'm good with that. And that's all that really matters. Having said that, Jay, what's interesting, again, and folks, it's hard to take a guy seriously, like Jay Lassiter, a guy who is, just celebrated, I think, his 77th birthday in May. I think it's 77 or 78. Don't quote me on it. I mean, I might be off a year or two or three. But again, a guy who's in his mid to late 70s acting like a teenager. Again, folks, this is who Jay Lassiter is. A guy reliving his teenage years, right? Who seems to have to keep, reminding everyone how he loves to smoke weed. And clearly that's impairing his mental state. He's all over the place. But you know what? Let me sort of go with this real quick. Okay? Let me go with this. And I hope you're all ready for story time with Fernando Uribe, baby. I'm going to tell you a story about the League of Municipalities in 2022. Okay? Now, of course, notwithstanding the unpleasant experience of having to deal with useless people like Bob Medina, right? Obviously having this clown, and his useless wife was probably nearby, of course, Patty Medina, right? Sort of the uncomfortable situation where, hey, listen, I just want to go hang out with a hot girl, which I was, okay, with people around me, family, okay? To think I'd be able to enjoy this sort of event without, quite frankly, having to be bothered with useless clowns like Bob Medina. But what's interesting is, after leaving the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce mixer during the League of Municipalities, I made my way to Cuba Libre at the Tropicana Hotel. Hey, there's a 2-hour open bar. I'm not going to pass up free liquor, especially at the expense of the Graham family, Pete Onelia, and Max Pizarro. But what's interesting, Jay, is that, again, during the evening, Jay, what I find very funny is and again, I have witnesses. It's not like I'm imagining this. I have witnesses that can corroborate the story. Okay? Because, again, Jay, if you're going to go somewhere and you're in the vicinity of someone you don't like, again, either you avoid them or you move away from them, which, again, I give you credit for. But, Jay, again, and this is what's really, really funny. And, again, this is what it makes me laugh. That do you think that making gestures or faces behind my back, and again, let me go for the record here. I took the high road here. I sometimes listen to my parents and sometimes I don't. But one of the few times I'll listen to my parents is when they say, hey, listen, if you're going to go somewhere and be near people that you don't like or don't like you, avoid problems. Absolutely. Avoid confrontation. No question. Right? What I don't like are little girls like Jay Lassiter and the little antics. Because you know what, Jay? You know what? You learn from these experiences. Okay? I don't like you and you don't like me, and that's fine. But let me just tell you this. I'm going to give you a fair warning here, Jay. Okay? The idea, and again, that's what little girls do, and you're fully immersed in that, right? The idea of making faces behind someone's back or little gestures, because you know fully well, Jay, that you wouldn't do this to my face. But I'll say this, and this isn't a prediction, it's a spoiler. Whether it's 5 feet away from me, 50 feet, or 500 feet, if I even see you or make eye contact with you, very simply, Jay, I'm going to warn you right now so you can be prepared mentally for this. Okay? Because as a man, right? Men, Fernando, you're a man, right? Being a man, something that you know nothing about, let's be honest, okay? Which you know nothing about. And I'll plant a flag and I'll die on that hill, as they say, okay? You better hope you don't see me and make eye contact with me, because I can tell you right now, whether it's 5 feet away from you, 50 or 500, the first thing out of my mouth is going to be like, hey, little girl, you got something to say? And I probably, folks, and here's a spoiler, because Jay Lasser is a little girl, he's not going to say anything. He won't. Because he's, again, he's very courageous online, right? It seems like Jay Lasser can't keep my name out of his keyboards or his smartphones and sort of, just mentioning my name, and that's fine. Again, altogether, it just seems like Jay Lasser has a difficult time keeping my name out of his mouth altogether. But then again, Jay, you have trouble keeping a lot of things out of your mouth. And again, hence why your quality of life and your health suck. But that's a debate for a different day. But let me just say this to you, Jay. It's funny about who you want to pick a fight with. Let me just say this. Stay in the shallow water. Dip your toes in. Don't go into the deep part of the water, because I'm the wrong shark to mess with in the deep parts of the water. Okay? And as I said before, I let you get away with it last year. I won't let you get away with it this year. You see me, you make sure you walk the other direction, because I promise you, I don't care if, again, 5 feet, 50 feet, or 500 feet, I make eye contact with you. All I'm going to say to you is, hey, little girl, you got something to say? Because you always got something to say online. And I'm going to wait and see what you do. But folks, here's a spoiler. This little girl won't do anything. Okay? But this man, Fernando Uribe, man, girl. There's a big difference. Man, girl. Huge difference in how we deal with people. It's funny though, Jay. Like I said before, it seems like you have a difficult time keeping my name out of your mouth. But again, historically, you struggle with keeping a lot of things out of your mouth. And as I said, that's why your health, your quality of life at this later part of your years, in your late 70s, absolutely sucks. You have no one to blame but you, not me or anyone else. And that's our show for this week. Once again, I want to thank the distinguished Mr. Bob Hurley, the president and CEO of the People's Park Foundation and Basketball Hall of Famer, for an insightful interview tonight. And certainly, folks, I cannot say what an honor it was to talk to Mr. Hurley tonight. Again, as someone who worked with him at 595 Newark Avenue as a probationer. Yes, folks, before being New Jersey's premier journalist and award-winning academic, right, and philanthropist, yes, I was a public servant. And I was an award-winning probation officer, believe it or not. Folks, I don't fit in this house with all these awards. But once again, it was a privilege to work with Mr. Hurley when I did back in the early 2000s. Great man, great coach, great philanthropist, and a great human. That's Bob Hurley, my guest tonight here on the show. Folks, always remember to check out our social media. Make sure you like Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on Facebook. Of course, also like Jersey First TV. Don't forget to follow Jersey First on Instagram and Twitter, as well as follow my own Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to the Jersey First YouTube button. And also, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify or SoundCloud, make sure you download the episodes and take Jersey First TV with you wherever you go. And of course, I cannot say enough how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media, folks. That's right, it's Jersey First TV, always educating and advocating for the people of New Jersey every single week. Brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative air every Thursday, of course, hosted by the incredible Elizabeth Nader. Brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Rambola. Of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe air every Monday night. Of course, folks, check it out. Great stuff always, every single week, brought to you by Jersey First TV. Again, folks, the leader in responsible reporting and really insightful opinions every single week. Always check it out at jerseyfirst.org/TV. Again, folks, I cannot say enough about the quality of guests on this program. It's why the traffic continues to be great, folks. 5,000 plus views and counting, all organic, ladies and gentlemen. As organic as the produce section at your local Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, or local supermarkets and delis. Of course, without you at home every week, tuning in live, and of course, sharing the replays, this traffic and the greatness you see every single week would not be possible. So I'm going to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for always supporting Jersey First TV. Let's go Cowboys as we go to Arizona this Sunday. Hoping to get the 3-0. Sounds like a special season. We'll find out. They tease us all the time. We'll see as the 2023 NFL season continues this coming week. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always real talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, certainly the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, as well as being the people's choice and the people's voice, and without a doubt, the most handsome face that runs the place. That's right. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, please party responsibly. Enjoy the rest of your week. And thanks for stopping by.